Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 347 of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The second podcast is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight, I would say she's the greatest hostess in the entire world, and she probably is, but she is also my problem, and our problem, and everyone's problem. Erin Paulette! How you doing, Erin?
You forgot Trixie Hobbit.
Trixie Hobbit. Yes, anyone who listens to the ACP blooper reel knows that I haven't said it in a while, but it's not for lack of trying.
So, how am I doing? I've been sitting on my ball all week, and at first my coccyx really hurt, but now I've gotten used to it.
I heard that in an entirely different way, but thankfully my brain decoded it to not filthy.
Well, I phrased it like that because that's exactly how I wanted you to hear it and go, Hawa? So, here's... Yeah, I'm sure you want to know what's going on.
Yes.
And so I have had back problems and hip problems for quite a while. And no matter what kind of chair I would get, it would be a different sort of problem. You know, it would hurt my lower back, or if I got a cushion, it would compress the hips. And I finally decided, how about I get one of those balance ball chairs? And I ordered one. And it took me a while to get used to it, but I think I got it like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and when I went to see the chiropractor on Wednesday, she was like, your back is much better. What's going on? And so then I told her I'd gotten one of these chairs, and she asked me, does anything unusual hurt? And I said, yes, my tailbone hurts. And I had muscle soreness, you know, in my abdomen and in the back. And she says, yeah, that's because you're not sitting in a stable way. You're constantly moving. And so, you know, the muscles, it's exercising your core. And the coccyx is because when you're sitting on that ball, your tailbone is moving, and your tailbone doesn't normally move when you sit, and so it's not used to that. But
so you're limbering up your tail.
Yeah. Well,
that's delightful.
Yeah, and it really has helped. And I spent the extra money to get the swivel base, because trying to scoot a ball chair in and out of a desk is obnoxious. But because it doesn't have arms, I can just swivel it and then stand up like parallel to the desk. And so it's really cool. So if you have lower back or hip problems, try out a ball chair. And I will put the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll work for you.
Interestingly enough, when you said ball chair, and I think you told me about this in a previous show, blooper reel, I don't know. I'd heard about this before, and I didn't realize that they made them with the caster wheels and all that on them, because I'd only seen them. So we had it was the CFO for the pharma company that I used to work for. He had back problems, and so he kept it's really just one of the yoga balls in his office. And so he would be sitting in his office taking calls and doing notes and doing all the stuff that a CFO does, and all that, while sitting on this ball in a suit. It was kind of hilarious. But yeah, supposedly it does wonders for the back. And we actually got one for my daughter during the lockdown, because of course you had the whole, like, all right, classroom, you're going to be sitting in front of a screen looking at a Zoom call with the teacher and students on it. And so we found that, like, if she's got something to fidget with, she fidgets in a much more controlled matter than not. And actually, she has a under our table. We have one of those plant pot stands that has the caster wheels. It's kind of like a furniture dolly, and she sits down with that and just rolls that back and forth, and she finds that quite comforting.
Yeah, I tried just sitting on a yoga ball, but it didn't sit me high enough, and I always want to lean back, and that doesn't work on a yoga ball.
I have sat on her yoga ball, and it often involves it's all well and good until I stop until I get lost in thought, and then suddenly I'm on my back looking up at the ceiling.
Yeah, but this one has the stable wheelbase, and it's got a back support, so you can lean back. And I'm not going to say that it's the answer to all my problems, but it has solved a great deal of them.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Especially as we get, we used to be young when we started doing this stuff, and now we got aches and pains, and we talk about the weather.
How's that go? If you wake up and your back hurts, it's time to schedule a colonoscopy.
Yes.
So that's what's up with me. How are you doing, Weer'd?
I am. I'm good. We're we're in full fledged. The place is open up in New Hampshire, and so we have been going back and forth. Pretty good. As a matter of fact, we got up there for it was my mother's birthday this weekend, and she specifically said we've been going to Lake in New Hampshire since I was very, very small. It would be like our first destination in we'd go up for April vacation every single year and do our first hike of the year, which is the Lincoln Woods Trail, which is just a nice flat trail over an old logging path. And we specifically did that because if there was still snow on the ground at that time of year, which there often is, you could still hike it and it's not dangerous. And so my mom was just like, she's in love with the area too. And she's just like, I just want to go up there for the weekend. So we had my folks up for the weekend, and we had a great time. There was a stand-up show in the little playhouse near in town, and we just saw that, and we did like a bunch of hikes and stuff, and I cooked a lot of food, and it was good times. And then one of our friends joked about saying, "Oh, we should all party up there too." And my wife looked at the calendar and saw that the following weekend was still available. We had it up for rent. But no one had taken it, and no one had taken the intervening week. So we just took it over, and that way we didn't have to unpack anything. We just threw all our stuff. Our stuff's still all up there, and so we'll be back up again next weekend.
Well, must be nice to have a second home.
I mean, like I said, it's a fractional ownership in a resort, so it's really just a hotel room that we just happen to own a piece of. And so it's nice the fact that when we go there, it's like literally the same thing. Don't have to worry about the bathroom's on the other side of the room in this one. And so, yeah, it's just a good time.
Okay.
And love the area, because it's Lincoln, New Hampshire is great, because if you look at it on the map, there is literally like nothing for like dozens of miles in every direction. But because it got built up as started off as a logging town, then it got built up as a ski resort town. And so there's like a grocery store and restaurants and a movie theater and a playhouse and shopping and various like tourist attractions and that sort of stuff, because it all just got built up around the around the ski resorts and and all that. But then you go like 5 miles in any direction and you are in just virgin wilderness. So that is just really awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, whenever I'm at a place there, I always look at my phone to see if there's cell signal, because there's also a cell tower in town. So the cell signal's great in town, but as soon as you get out of sight of that tower, ain't nothing. So yeah, that's that. Just a lot of running around and just packing up stuff and just driving. So.
Mm-hmm. So, continuing the theme, it sounds like we've got some really good news for once in our main topic.
Yes. And so, yeah, we have got the starting off the Trump's big beautiful bill, or one big beautiful bill, it's a budget bill, but it's full of a ton of pork, and honestly speaking, I don't even know a quarter of what's in this thing. So I guarantee there's stuff in here that's absolutely awful. But in the Second Amendment news, it appears that there are actually two provisions inside of it. So essentially it's like steeled up in the fact that even if they kill one, they'll have to kill both of it for us to not to get something in our favor, which is the Hearing Protection Act. So it's got the Hearing Protection Act in there, which is the, I believe it specifically converts suppressors over to essentially handguns. They're treated the same way as handguns. So if you are 21, at least for the time being, because that's being challenged by the courts as well, and you can pass a background check, you could just go buy a suppressor. No tax stamp, no waiting period, no extra paperwork. It's just a 4473 and away you go. Also means that those of us like Oddball and David who have 3D printers, as soon as this goes through, if it's off the NFA, that means you can just print up disposable suppressors. And then, but there's also another provision within the bill that also rewrites the law on the NFA that the tax stamp for suppressors gets reduced to 0. And so if we don't get one, we may end up getting the other. So
actually, the article here says reduces it to $5, but I do remember someone talking about reducing it to 0.
Yeah, this article does say that. I thought I heard it as 0.
But hey, I'll take $5.
Yeah, $5 is also very nice. The 0 would be an added benefit in the fact that the NFA has sidestepped some certain laws, because obviously we'll talk about this in a little later, but there is a federal law that makes it illegal for any federal agency to keep a gun registry. And yet, meanwhile, we have the NFA, which is in fact a registry filled with guns. But the NFA notes that no, this is a tax bill, and so therefore this is really just the records of tax documents.
Well, what I have heard is that because the NFA is a tax act, if they can reduce the cost to 0, then you aren't taxing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be the incremental step. And then you go, well, this is a tax act that's not collecting any tax. We should remove suppressors from the NFA.
Or you could even argue that, in fact, the NFA's argument that the reason why it's keeping, if you're collecting the registrations and maintaining the registry for items that you are not collecting any tax on, then in fact it's not a tax act at all. It's just a gun registry, and so therefore the whole thing could be argued as null and void. At least could be argued. But of course, as we know, gun laws are absolute Calvin ball.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is good news. Also, I put in the show notes, there certainly has been a lot of talk. And this news is a little bit stale. Some of this is stuff that was actually on the list for last week's show, just in case the boys from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, who weren't going to do an entire show on the SIG P320 and their findings on that. And again, if you have ever know somebody who has a SIG P320 and you didn't listen to that show, it might be worthwhile at least going over the show notes. But yeah, give it a listen. I think I feel like it was a pretty good show, and I was more than happy to make an editorial decision outside of our normal format, because the fact that we've got all of these issues with the SIGs going off, and they actually found something that may in fact lead to that to why that might be happening. It's pretty important 2A news. But there was a lot of talk that the Hearing Protection Act may have been under fire from a suppressor company that was looking to keep suppressors on the NFA because they wanted it works out best for them because they make kiosks that streamline the paperwork for that. And essentially it's come out officially that like people were saying so, but going through the Silencer Central was the one being directly accused of that. And they have left a statement that says Silencer Central has consistently and publicly stated our strong support for enactment of the Hearing Protection Act. Additionally, we strongly support any viable legislative proposals which would enhance or expand the ability for our customers to exercise their constitutional right to purchase, possess, and legally use suppressors. We are not lobbying against the HPA.
Well, in fact, even in that previous article we were referencing, they mentioned Silencer Central and say they've worked closely with the National Shooting Sports Foundation to deregulate suppressor ownership. So not only have they not been trying to keep it, they've been working to knock that down. So good for them.
Yeah. And of course there's, if you scroll into the if you scroll in, well, there was some community guidelines, but that doesn't appear to be there anymore, but talks about how in fact they have had lobbyists, and there was a line item that says develop and support suppressor tax stamp conservation legislation. And there's all sorts of talks on whether or not that means they want to conserve the tax stamp, or if that's just a weasel word of saying it so that they don't sound as extreme on the fact that they want to take the suppressors off the NFA. It's certainly, no matter what your business model is, if suppressors are at all in your business model, including you make guns that might accept a suppressor, this is definitely a rising tide that'll lift all boats. Especially if you've never had the blessing of shooting a suppressed firearm, because oh my God, they're nice. In fact, actually at the blog shoot last year, a friend of the show with a common name, he has his Mac 10 with the various Lage uppers, and he was shooting the 5.56 upper, so essentially open bolt, the M16 we have at home, and he had a suppressor on the end of it, and I said, oh good, he's got a suppressor on the end of it, and he dumped a mag from it, and I was just like, I mean, I was wearing ear protection, so it wasn't like my ears were ringing, but it was definitely one of those like, wow, that was loud. And then later on in the shoot, he took the suppressor off and went, oh yeah, no, it does good work. It went from loud to that is really loud. So yeah, they can be quite quiet, but they can also just be, it takes the edge off.
All right, so you referenced the Hearing Protection Act, which is something that I first heard back in Trump's first term in 2016. Something else that I also heard was concealed carry reciprocity. And it seems like that may be a thing as well, Weer'd?
Yes, yep. That bill is has resurfaced again. I believe it actually first showed up under Obama, where it was really more of just a virtue signal bill, where the various people put out these bills just to make a lot of noise and go ahead, vote it down. I want to watch you do it.
Sort of like the Congress critter who always proposes to repeal whichever amendment that says a president can only run for 2 terms.
Yep. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's whenever a Democrat, wins their second term, or if it's a Republican that wins their second term, there's always somebody from their party that's like, let's get rid of term limits. And everyone just laughs them out of the room. Though I will say, with laws like this, it's like if somebody is proposing during the reign of an anti-gun president, a really, really good gun control or gun rights law, or repeal of gun control, it's not necessarily just virtue signaling, because again, this is a good way to pressure test stuff and to give people a chance. I mean, think about how many times the national parks carry was introduced and killed in committee, and then eventually it did actually come up and was signed into law.
Yeah, but it was only signed into law because it was part of an omnibus bill that included, I think, credit card debt relief, something like that.
I don't really remember the specifics, but
I vaguely remember it because I know that Obama wouldn't have signed just that into law.
Yeah.
It had to be bundled with other good things for him to say, okay.
Well, yeah, that was the Obama one where I think it was signed into law by George W. Bush. But then I think Obama tried to get rid of it with an executive order, and then it got nuked by that bill. I think you're correct. So, but either way, you can carry in a national park. And, but yeah, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act has been reintroduced. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, again, this would be the one where essentially your concealed carry permit becomes like a driver's license, in the fact that, I was driving in New Hampshire, this weekend, and that was because, my Massachusetts driver's license is good there. And when I lived in Maine, I would drive down to Massachusetts to visit my then girlfriend, now wife. And, and they accept my Maine driver's license down in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and all over the country. And it should be the exact same way, because it's really like the laws of the road. Some states have some interesting rules and statements and laws. Some states you can't ever do a right on red, and there's different rules, but overall they're the same. Like the justified lethal force is the same in every state. So why shouldn't you be able to just carry in all 50 states if you're licensed to carry in your state?
And there is actually specific mention of what happens if you're from a permitless carry state like Texas. And in that case, all you have to do is show that you're a resident of that state. Now, that does require the police officer to know which states are permitless carry states. So I would recommend you still have a concealed carry permit, but that at least hasn't been overlooked.
Oh, that's good, because in some of the earliest iterations, when I believe it was like Arizona and Vermont and Alaska, it might have been the only ones, or there might have been a few others in there, like Wyoming. But at that point in time, Vermont was the only state that, and still is the only state that doesn't issue a permit. If, every state you're in now, if you're permitless carry, you can still get a permit unless you're from the state of Vermont. And there is a provision in the fact that you can go to your local law enforcement office and just state that you would like to have a official letterhead about your ability to conceal carry. And there is just a standard boilerplate sheet that they can fill out and have the chief sign. And essentially it just says, we've done a NICS check on this person, and they are free and clear to own and carry firearms in the state of Vermont. And that has the weight and equivalence of a Vermont state concealed carry permit.
It's really strange to me that of all the states to do this and do it first, it was Vermont. The home of Bernie Sanders.
It wasn't that they did it first. It's literally that they never did it. Is that all 50 states were permitless carry in the beginning, or maybe not all 50, but all of the early states were all permitless carry, and it was just understood that people would just carry firearms, and hence why we wrote the Second Amendment, and it means what it goddamn says: the right to keep and bear arms. And so the idea of a permit and paying a fee and taking classes and vetting yourself to own and carry a gun. You don't have to do this for voting. You don't have to do this for free speech. We don't have a permit to be doing this podcast. That is just it would have been completely alien to the founding fathers. And so it just happened to be that Vermont was one of those states that just never bothered with any of this stupid gun control stuff. And up until very, very recently, Vermont really only had hunting laws. And so there were some gun restrictions, like you're not allowed to carry, I think unless it was concealed, a loaded firearm in your car. And that was for people who were jacklighting deer. And suppressors were illegal until very, very recently in Vermont, because it's why it was there on the NFA in the first place is people were concerned that people were going to use suppressors to hunt in like public parks and places, and poach deer. So that was the only concerns. And it was only until very, very recently that, I mean, really, there was a bunch of very pro 2A blue states out there, Vermont, Oregon, Washington State. Trying to remember if there's another one that was consistently very blue, but very, very pro gun. But in the last decade, that has changed drastically.
So I assume jacklighting deer is the same as spotlighting them?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Drive up to a field, shine a spotlight out there. The deer will freeze. And one guy holds a spotlight, one guy holds a rifle. Shoot the deer, throw him in the trunk of the car, drive away fast.
A deer will fit in the trunk of a car? I mean, I know the bed of a pickup truck, but...
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking like, a Crown Victoria. and also there's a lot of them that are leg. And so you kind of fold the neck over and tuck the legs in. They'll fit in the trunk.
Oh.
But yeah,
see,
also
as someone who never hunts, I don't know these things.
Yeah. But also in the bed of a pickup truck and that sort of stuff. And also you're not necessarily looking for the biggest, baddest deer. You're just, if you're playing the, if it's brown, it's going down. Assorted Calibers podcast does not endorse illegal hunting. As a matter of fact, I found a YouTube channel that exclusively does badge cam videos from game wardens, and I've been absolutely addicted to it. And I told this to my wife, and she just was incredulous on the, wait, there's enough for like a whole YouTube channel on just game wardens? I'm like, yep.
There's a channel that I've recently gotten into, and I don't know if I can find it because we all know how good I am with names. But the idea is that this is a Canadian guy, and I want to guess his name is Steve, and aha! I found it. Yes, Steve Wallace. And he does stealth camping. And he will go camping in various places stealthily and try not to be caught, really. I mean, he doesn't break the law, but if you find a guy who's camped out, in the woods next to a McDonald's, you might wonder what was going on. And so it's all about, camping surreptitiously and lightweight. In one of them, he actually camped out near a busy intersection, and he was, how you've got bushes and shrubs that are in front of a wall, but there's like about half a foot to a foot of space between the bushes and the wall. That's where he camped.
Yep.
And so it's really interesting. I mean, especially from a prepper aspect, it's just, okay, if I needed to hide, how could I do it? And so that's my recent fascination.
Yeah. And it's also one of those, like, it's soft crime it's probably many places there's laws against camping in a non-designated campsite or camping without express permission of the property owner, whether that be a private business or the state. And of course also many states have vagrancy laws. So, sleeping in public is illegal in many states as a way to get homeless people to go seek shelter in homeless shelters and hopefully other places that will get them to a condition where they're not wanting to be homeless and outside. But but it's also very similar to, there's a bunch of YouTube channels that are people that do essentially hobo rail riding, where they'll jump freight trains and ride around the country that way. And it's illegal, and it's, there are certainly reasons to not do it, but I can certainly see how people would enjoy doing such things, especially since it's one of those like, okay, yeah, technically you're breaking the law, but no one, you're not going to go to hell for it.
It's the difference between malum prohibitum and malum in se.
Very much so. Especially since I assume that he also works very, very hard to being a stealth camping, that it's not like he's, leaving an open latrine pit when he leaves.
Oh, he's conscientious about cleaning up when he leaves, and he makes a point of leaving the place cleaner than when he found it.
Yeah. Because there's certainly some of those, when you mentioned the woods against the wall, like on an intersection, is, unfortunately I have definitely seen those being used as campsites by homeless people, and you can immediately tell by just the sheer amount of trash and garbage and stuff that's in there.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron. This is one that you that you put up for last week, and I teased it when talking about the NFA being a registry.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So speaking of trash and garbage, this was brought to my attention by the former counsel for Operation Blazing Sword, and it is a PDF from the U.S. Department of Justice, specifically Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And it's from April 23rd of this year. And I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's 2 pages. When I first looked at it, I read it, and I go, okay, I don't really see what's going on. I feel stupid. So, please explain to me, like I'm an idiot, what concerns you. And so, okay, Weer'd Beard, gun stores and 4473s.
Yes.
When they go out of business, what are they supposed to do with those 4473s?
They are supposed to ship them all to the ATF office. I believe it's in West Virginia. And they're supposed to archive them.
That's if they're physical forms.
Yes.
And I believe they're supposed to delete them if they're digital.
Yes, and I believe, but there's also a timeline. There's also a timeline that if you have 4473s that are over, I want to say 15 years. I'm not a lawyer, and you should not be taking compliance advice from me. But there is a certain period of time. I believe it's like 15 or 20 years. Then you can shred them.
Right.
And the same goes for the ATF. They are supposed to, for physical stuff, they are supposed to destroy them within so many years of when the background check was proposed. And under no circumstances are they allowed to scan or digitize them.
Right. And I believe that if they are doing a background check, the ATF is doing one for criminality, all of their paperwork has to be destroyed in like 24 hours. That's what she said. I profess my ignorance.
Yeah,
but
there is a shorter timeline for digital paperwork.
Right. And so the lawyer says, after having read this PDF, that the ATF has admitted that they have several 100 million 4473 forms that they have not only kept for months or for years, but have given those forms to state enforcement agencies, and they're saying that they have the right to do so, which is troubling. For some of us, it's confirmation of what we suspected, but still, the confirmation is troubling. And so, I haven't yet heard anything else since I was informed of this last week. But last I heard, Gun Owners of America is deciding whether or not they're going to sue over this. And I hope they do.
Yeah, this is something that's been talked about for years, and the fact that essentially it's one of those, like, it's a dirty little secret that, yes, of course, the ATF has an illegal gun registry. And I think the number one proof of that is the fact that in most cases of really just about every case of either a mass shooter or a prolific shooter, they immediately identify where the person got their gun. Ironically, there was a shooting in Virginia Beach where the shooter used a suppressed 45 pistol as that. I think they were a state worker, and they knew where he got the pistol, but they didn't know where he got the suppressor. And that seems odd because one of those things is supposed to have an easily searchable database, and the other one is not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is one of those dirty little secrets, is they're not supposed to have it, and no, they totally don't have it, and they deny it, but they absolutely do. And this is just more evidence of that. And yeah, hopefully some legal action will stomp this for once and for good, or at least hit the reset button so that it's not it's no longer an ongoing issue.
All right, Weer'd, we've got something coming out of Massachusetts, and that's your backyard. So you tell me what's going on with this Westbrook suitability case.
Yes, I had to throw this one in because it is it's something to this is one of those, the constant back and forth that's going on within Massachusetts. Obviously, we had the Bruin decision that essentially said that yes, indeed, you have the right to have a concealed carry permit, and all of these crazy restrictions that are throwing on are going through, and Massachusetts challenged it, saying that, oh, but we have our suitability charge, our clause, which is the biggest load of crap on earth, because the overall statement is that, oh, the chief of police should be able to, look you over and determine if you're suitable or not. And that way, if a weirdo comes in and is wanting a concealed carry permit, they could tell them to go pound sand and save the world from all the destruction just because he's got a clear background check. But it's one of those, like, if you've got a clear background, then it doesn't matter how weird you are. Like, if you haven't done anything, then you haven't done anything. You're innocent. And so this whole, like, guilty until proven innocent nonsense should be struck down. And if someone's that much of a weirdo, tail them, follow them, find them doing something bad, and then get them. And so that was a judge ruled that in fact Bruin was right, and that you have the right to own guns, and suitability is stupid. But this latest ruling is, in fact, it's gone back to suitability is constitutional in the state of Massachusetts, and we are continuing to fight back with this, and by we I mean the Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts. So at the time being, May issue is still alive and well in Massachusetts, as it is in New York, the subject of the Bruin decision.
All right, so this topic is titled "Every Town is Dumb," and we knew that, Weer'd. Yes,
but this was, and I actually forget what they were reacting on. This was actually an older post, but I laughed at it nostalgically as someone who first really got into the Second Amendment world with the federal assault weapons ban, and specifically, I was one of those people that thought that it banned machine guns, and I believe this is for the bump stock, the bump stock ban that Trump signed an executive order that made that go through, but essentially every town released a meme, a flyer, a piece of propaganda that said Trump just made machine guns legal again, and this was copied on a Twitter from Carrie Sloan, who has a wonderful Twitter feed, her channel, her thing is the comments are filled with I wish, but it's good to know that the anti-gunners are still talking about the legality of machine guns that is completely untrue in 2025.
I mean, if you have the money to get the permit, machine guns are legal.
I mean, yeah, machine guns are absolutely legal unless your state specifically forbids them, which I think a couple do. But I mean, I always joke on the fact that I can't buy an AR-15 here in Massachusetts, but I can buy an M16. I wish I note that because the M16 is safer because it's got one more safety position. But yeah, but that's the whole point is actually machine guns are actually, as a general rule, quite legal, even in the most anti-gun state, because you need to be rich to have them, and you don't want to mess with rich people because they have deep pockets and can often hold a grudge.
If you can afford a machine gun and afford to feed it, you can afford a good lawyer. Hey, I didn't even intend it to be a segue, but hey, speaking of good lawyers,
yes,
we've got a follow-up on the killing, the practically a government hit on that Little Rock Airport executive that was executed by the ATF.
That's right. The widow of Brian Malinowski has stated that she is in fact suing the ATF for she's saying calling out wrongful death, negligent death. She's calling for a bunch of charges. One is for the wrongful death of her husband, Brian Malinowski, also for the fact that she got arrested, and she's calling that unlawful detention. Might be some other stuff in there. Does this article lay them out? But either way, this is, I mean, number one, it's actually the actual lawsuit and some of the PR statements being made by the Malinowski team is shedding some additional light on some things that have to do with this raid. In the fact that, I mean, we knew that essentially the ATF agents came into his home in Little Rock on March 19th, 2024. They were not wearing body cams, even though that was required. They put a piece of tape over his Ring doorbell cam. They allegedly announced their presence, but number one, it wasn't recorded by anything. And two, there was not any reports or 911 calls from any of the neighbors wondering why there was allegedly police sirens and loud knocking and screaming of police and that sort of stuff. Nobody said they heard it inside the house, and nobody heard it in any of the neighboring houses. So clearly it was not that good. And of course they forced entry into the house, wearing nothing but black tactical gear. There was nothing that was identifying them as ATF or police. There was some local police with them. The wife does confirm, and I guess this does bring a little bit of good to the ATF, because they stated that they shot Mr. Malinowski in the head because he had opened fire on them, and they were returning fire in self-defense. And it does in fact turn out that his wife openly says that he had fired on the agent. So I was worried that the whole discussion of an agent was shot and suffered minor injuries was entirely made up, and in fact they just shot and killed him and just said that he had shot at them. But in fact, no, he had shot at them. It was a two-way range that morning. But the overall statement is that he was only given a matter of moments before they breached, and there's actually been some court documents are noting the fact that some people may not be in a decent condition to answer the door, so they may have to get dressed. They may have to do other things. So giving him 30 seconds to answer the door. He was also an airport exec, so I would assume his house wasn't tiny either. So sometimes it may take you a while to get to the door. And the fact that they're saying ATF or police, anybody can say that. That doesn't prove who you are. And to add some further dirt to the ATF, it doesn't actually say this in the article, but there are several other articles that are noting that, oh no, I think it does say it in this one, that they attempted to do the raid earlier on. I think it was a week or two earlier, but they realized that he wasn't going to be at home. And the whole statement is, people say, oh, why didn't you just arrest him? And they say, well, we didn't have a warrant for his arrest. But in theory, they could at least detain him or inform him, and they could have done so either on his way to, from, or at his work at the airport, where they would be guaranteed that this guy, who's a quote-unquote arms dealer per their allegations, didn't have any arms on him because he would need to enter through security at the airport. This was so much negligence, and hopefully with some people who are not friendly towards these sort of ATF actions, we will have maybe some better ones. Maybe ideally, I would say that the best bet is just pay the woman, because the federal government 100% did her wrong. There's no reason why her husband was killed. There was no reason why this raid could have gone through. And there's a lot of dubiousness on what the point of the raid is. Actually, the court documents are always saying he was not engaged in the business of a firearms dealer because he's an airport exec. He makes his money running an airport, that he doesn't need to sell guns on the side. And they're not alleging that he was selling huge amounts of guns. Like, he was not selling nearly as much as even your local gun store, let alone Smith & Wesson, is selling. So hopefully they will pay her and be open about some of the changes that they're making within the agency on how it can serve warrants.
That's great. I want people to be arrested.
Yeah.
I want people to go to jail for this.
Yeah, there is that. Unfortunately, this is a civil lawsuit, so I don't think that will happen, but it could also turn around that they're going to the new head, it's not Kash Patel anymore, it's somebody new, is the head of the ATF, may lead to cleaning out some of the people that ordered this literal hit. Because there was no reason. They could have come during normal business hours. It's not like he's going to flush AR-15s down the toilet. The idea that, it might prevent a firefight or an ambush or all that, well, also,
that worked well.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that. Just knock on the door, let him answer the door, show him the warrant. And if you're going to breach when there's nobody home. They clearly were surveilling him enough. They had like a tracker on his car. Like, they knew where he was. If you want to breach in an empty home and search for all the stuff. Otherwise, either knock on the door and let him, or pull him over. Say he's got make him think he's got an out tail light. Pull him over as he's driving home from work and say, "Hey, we've got a search warrant for your home. We'll take you back and we'll detain you while we search your home," or offer that, but let him unlock the door. Because you also got to remember, like, when these raids go through, like, they're breaking your door. Like, you're going to need to board up your own door, because now your primary entrance and egress way doesn't work, and it's no longer secure. That's just miserable, and just nobody should be doing this sort of stuff. Exercise your warrant. Just let them know they're not going to flush the guns.
And now, for our lone contributor topic, David geeks out about gun gear.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. I picked up some new parts and accessories recently, so in this segment I'm going to do a gear review. Starting chronologically is something I got from my Smith & Wesson M&P9 M2.0 Compact. I bought this pistol shortly after the 2.0 series was released, but before Smith offered them with an optic cut. Pretty much ever since they added that feature, I've been pestering them to release the compact optic cut slides for sale. Well, they did, so I bought one. My new slide came well packaged, and in addition to the optic cut cover, it also came with 7 plate adapters and a selection of screws. My only disappointment with it is the slide is marked Made in Massachusetts. I was really hoping for one with a Made in Tennessee stamp. This is a complete slide with suppressor height sights. Swapping it with the factory slide took only a few moments. The ejection port is a snug fit with the Faxon threaded barrel I'd previously added, but working the slide a few dozen times smoothed it up nicely. Next for this pistol is the Optic I selected to go on the new slide. After some research, I chose the Holosun 507C with green dot. I could have gone with Holosun's SCS MP2 model, which is designed to mount directly to an M&P slide without an adapter plate. It's less than $20 more expensive and has a lower profile. However, it has a slightly smaller window and a non-replaceable internal battery. Meanwhile, the 507C attaches with one of the provided adapter plates, and battery life is estimated at 50,000 hours with the dot-only reticle at settings 6 out of 12, 10 for daylight use and 2 night vision compatible. The battery compartment is accessed from the side and doesn't require removing the optic from the gun. This optic also has a solar panel for backup in case of battery failure. Some of the other features include shake awake, meaning the reticle will go into low power standby until the optic is jostled, then it'll return to the last brightness setting. This optic has 3 reticle options available. Default is a 2 MOA dot centered in a 32 MOA circle. The other 2 are dot only and circle only. Installation was simple, requiring only removing the optic slot cover and selecting the correct length screws for the Holosun and plate combination. Sighting in didn't take long, and soon I was cutting a single large ragged hole with 10 shots at around 7 yards. I do need to practice dot acquisition to get my speed up to par. Until then, I'll leave it at the circle dot setting as that's easier to see. Moving on to another firearm, while at the NRA annual meeting in April, I picked up a 3.5-pound single-stage flat-faced AR fire control group from Schmid inside for a really good price. I decided to put this in my 300 Blackout AR carbine. Installation was, once again, seamless. The parts dropped in just like they're supposed to. But what a difference over the mil-spec trigger I'd had in there. I'm now much more interested in getting either a magnifier for the red dot mounted on that carbine, or some form of LPVO and see what I can do farther out. Last but not least is another purchase from the NRA annual meeting, a pair of ISOtunes Sport electronic earbuds. These are the newer model of the style Oddball has had for a while and has sung the praises of more than once. Those praises are well deserved. The ISOtunes Sport comes with a selection of earbud covers and a USB-C charging cable. This version is also Bluetooth compatible. Once charged, it synced to my phone without hesitation. They come with standard foam plugs attached, but I swapped them out for the 3-tier silicone style I prefer. Shooting out in the hot Tennessee sun for an hour or so, they were much more comfortable than my otherwise excellent Walker muffs with gel ear cups. I used them while testing both the M&P with the Holosun as well as the AR with Schmid match trigger. Other than not causing swamp ear, there was no real difference in experience between the ISOtunes and Walkers when shooting the pistol. Where they really shined was with the carbine. I had no worries about the ear cup being pushed out of the way or otherwise breaking seal because of the stock. That alone will make the ISOtunes my first choice when shooting long guns. I hope you enjoyed the gear geekery. Have fun and safe shooting.
The best way to kind of describe the dot size itself is to just tell you what MOA is at 100 yards. MOA, that dot size is roughly going to be 1 inch at 100 yards.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments, or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Aaron or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
So I actually had to verify that David said what I thought he said. And talking about the Holosun SCS, the one that's more expensive, it has a non-replaceable internal battery. And it charges through the solar panel. There's no way to charge it through USB like you would think. And when the battery goes bad, I guess you have to send the optic back to the factory. I want to point out this is the more expensive version, and it has less utility and more pain in the buttness than the less expensive version, which allows you to change out the battery.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Holosun was thinking. That's derpy right there.
Yep. I don't know either, and I would say that that's definitely a deal breaker. And I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker to have the kind that you actually have to dismount to take the battery out of the bottom.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but yeah, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, it's something you can do. You know, the pain in the butt part is that, you know, if you co-witness your sites, you can probably get the dot close enough so that if you don't have time to go to the range and confirm your zero, you know you're pretty much in the right ballpark. But it's not that bad on the time to change the battery and let's make it squared away so I can run off to the range and verify the zero. It's just nicer when you just pull it off. Yeah, and I gotta say that I think you don't. You've got your Ruger Max 9, right, Aaron? So you have...
Yes, I've got the Ruger Max 9 with the integral. Well, you can remove it, but ready dot. And what's interesting about that is there's no electronics involved in the ready dot. It's all fiber optics. And it's got this huge red dot on it. I don't know what the MOA is on it. You're not going to win any marksmanship competitions, but for self-defense shooting, it's fine. How big is the dot? I can see the dot with my glasses off.
Wow.
It's nice and big. I could probably get you the MOA on that. But yeah, I really like it. And, you know, if we ever meet up, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever be able to, you know, go shooting with it, but I'll definitely let you look at it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, but it doesn't work at night. Or it doesn't work at night.
That is true. It does not work at night. However, it doesn't take much light to get a pretty dim dot going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, when I go for my walks at night, I have a headlamp. Hey, that headlamp puts out enough that it goes through the fiber optic and lights it right up.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is very cool. And of course, yeah, you live in the part of Florida where streetlights are ubiquitous as well. So
actually, not in my neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I live in a pretty rural part of Florida. We don't have sidewalks where I am.
Okay, but
so.
Yeah, I certainly don't have an optic, but we talked about Massachusetts laws and all that. Like for sure, my large carry gun is a 1911 because if I'm stuck with single stack, I might as well make it 45. But for sure, if I'm suddenly able to carry big kit magazines, I definitely want to carry a double stack gun, and for sure that double stack gun for me to carry is going to be set up with an optic, and so yeah, and I especially want one with the large reticle like David was talking about, because that was one of the things I found like with the first optics is, if you don't have the co-witnessing sights, you pull the gun out of the holster and point at a target, and you might just be looking at a blank screen, and you have no idea where that dot is hiding. And but if the dot's got a giant ring around it, chances are, so long as your sight alignment's halfway decent, you're going to see that ring, and you're going to be able to instinctually get the dot up to where it needs to go.
So I looked it up. The ready dot is 15 MOA.
It's a lot of MOAs.
Yes, it is.
But for a gun with a 3-inch barrel, it's not like you're gonna be lobbing rounds 250 yards at enemy snipers.
So the main reason I got this particular gun was for that fiber optic sight, and the reason for that is my eyes are bad enough that very soon I'm going to need both driving glasses and reading glasses. And for whatever reason, my optician doesn't recommend bifocals. And so the problem is I may have the wrong set of glasses on in a self-defense situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got this with the thinking of, if the dot is big enough it doesn't matter what kind of glasses I am. I just put the dot over the target.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's that. And also just the simplicity of it. I mean, anybody who has, has learned to shoot on, Patridge style, iron sights where you've got the V notch and the front blade and all that, and then suddenly switched over to a rifle with an aperture sight like an AR-15 or such and all that. You suddenly realize, oh my God, this sight is so much easier to use because the rear sight is just no longer a factor because you're looking through the aperture, and so really you just got to put the blade where you want the bullet to go, and that's the same idea as using a scope, or in this case an optic. Is just one of those, you just set the dot. Like you got the front sight should be in focus, the target should be blurry, the rear sight should be blurry. Nope, just put everything in focus and put the dot where you want the bullet to go.
Mm-hmm.
And David mentions that earplugs are superior to muffs, and I absolutely agree with that. Both in the fact that often, actually, a lot of time, plugs actually offer better decibel reduction than muffs if they're good quality ones. But again, the big one, besides a swamp ear, which is a huge thing when shooting in hot weather, but also I think if you haven't accidentally cracked the seal on the on an earmuff on the butt of a rifle, you haven't been shooting long enough, because I think we've all done that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just suddenly bang and no, my ear's ringing. This sucks. And so, yeah, I will sometimes, especially in wintertime when it's cold, I'll wear muffs for the exact reason. It keeps my ears warm. And if I'm just shooting handguns, but the moment a rifle comes out, I'm putting it in my ear.
Well, what I like to do is I like to have earplugs and earmuffs, and the earmuffs are electronic and amplified. So they are loud enough to get through the earplugs, but the earplugs are there in case my earmuffs get dislodged. I know it's belt and suspenders, but it works for me.
Yeah, no, I mean it works good, and it can also cut down. We mentioned friend of the show with a common name shooting his 5.56 machine gun, and even with a suppressor, it was still unpleasant. And all that. Yeah, the plugs and muffs doubling up can help that a lot.
Yeah, when we went to the Gundies a couple of years ago, I was very happy to have both, because full auto is loud, large caliber is loud, and then they fired the tank.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, the tank actually, the tank was definitely the most. I was about to mention the minigun, but yeah, the tank put the minigun to shame. The tank, it didn't matter what you were using for ear protection. It was going to hurt your ears because your body was going to hear it. The sound is coming from inside your skull.
And we're coming from inside the skull of our listeners.
We are. Our lovely listeners. We absolutely appreciate you listening in on this show. I mean it. It's super important to have that. We do this because we love it, but we wouldn't love it as much if nobody listened. But we have to give a very special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. You guys help keep the lights on, and this podcasting ain't free. So if you wanted to join in, it's not a tip jar. It's not us begging. We sell stuff. So if you want to join, go to patreon.com/SwordCaliber's to sign up. We've got things like you can get an early release of the show. We've got the ACP blooper reels. We've got the ACP film tracks and the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I got a blog. It's weerdworld.com. That's WEERDworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at linktree/Aaron Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Aaron Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
Well, Weer'd will do it if no one listens, but that's just him. I do it for the attention and for the money. Our motivations for doing this podcast are assorted. And so's our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.